Here. Welcome to the Lost World Museum. Did we come from one of these? Apes, aliens, or Adam? Okay, Mr. Monkey. We've had enough of you. Okay, so when entering in this discussion as to where we came from, is the biblical account have any validity whatsoever? Or is it just a bunch of fairy tales that have no science, no history, no nothing to back it up? Okay? We're going to talk about that, but let me give you a preview of what we're going to do. We're going to review the Franken fossil machine. We're going to show you some instant fossils. You may have seen them before, almost instant. We are going to unbox delicate fish bones in acrylic to make a point. I'm going to show that to you tonight. I haven't opened it yet. We're going to show you an interesting fossil. We'll get to that. We're going to bury a fish. It's a rubber fish. And we're going to show you some other interesting fossils. And then we're going to give you our special museum text line so that you can get alerted next time we've got something cool or a giveaway. So that's coming up too. All right. So we asked the question, where did we come from? I'm John Adolfi, Lost World Museum, and here we go. So when it comes to fossilization, okay, when you have the evolutionary account and the creationist account, believe it or not, they are starting to come together and harmonize. Oh, let me do that again. Creationism, evolution. They're starting to harmonize, believe it or not. No longer are they looking, they, meaning the established scientific community that interprets those things that nobody was there to observe, but has a worldview that, a premise, there is no God, there is nobody involved. This took millions of years, billions of years, and that through uniformitarianism, that's a big $3 word for everything kind of flowing along naturally like we see it around us right now. That took place for the last 4.6 or 51 billion years. And through natural selection, positive mutation, environmental pressure, we went from a proto-RNA to where we are today. Okay, that's the narrative, okay? And of course, the creation account is that 6 to 10,000 years ago, there was a God that spoke things into existence over a 1-week period, and we were created on day 6, only to see it all wiped out 1,600 years later in a worldwide flood. And if there was a worldwide flood, then we have to explain the fossils in the context of a recent worldwide flood. Because if you go with evolutionary concepts, this right here, which is the fossil column, the age of a lot of the Earth science is in this right here, and it goes from the Precambrian. Well, it starts 2.5 billion years ago and goes all the way up. So now, if uniformitarianism is true, and we came from a proto-RNA some 3.5 billion years ago, okay? Then this column right here, this geological column, is the best evidence that we have to go on. And if it was laid down very slowly over time, then it's exactly what it says it is. But if a worldwide flood actually happened 4,400 years ago, what you're looking at here is the way that it was laid down and the animals that died in the layers that they died in over the course of a very short period of time, less than a year. So while we're having this dialogue or the discussion on whether or not this is true, fossils come into the picture. Now, the interesting thing is since the 1980s, fast fossilization has already made its inroads into the conversation. What they're teaching on the collegiate level. Now, you may not get this by watching Jurassic Park. You're not going to get this by watching the History Channel or the National Geographic Channel or any of the archaeological or whatever channels, science channels. They're not going to talk about this. It's almost like it's hidden in plain sight. I'm not going to go as far as to accuse anybody of anything, but they are now believing that fossilization and the formation of alluvial or sedimentary rock, like this sandstone, happen catastrophically, and the fossilization process quickly. Now, both of those elements or characteristics have to be in place or have to be at work if there was a worldwide flood over a course of 1 year recently, 4,400 years ago. You would have to have the entire geological column laid down during that year, and you would have to have very fast fossilization. Now, both critics of Genesis and the proponents of evolution since the 1980s have said that this is a fast process. But again, you're not going to hear it. But let's just talk about it. They both agree, but how old they are is where they disagree. But I think this is fascinating. Evidence of fast fossilization. Friends, there is a paleontologist who came public in something called the Medusa effect. He believed for a short period of time initially, but I'll explain what that is. He believed that the very act of fossilization was what killed the animals, meaning that when a fish gets caught up in a catastrophic event and it gets sealed off and it's still alive, that the fossilization process is so quick that it actually kills the item that's encapsulated, and the fossilization process is what kills it. Interesting. Now, he did back off on that, but why would a paleontologist say that this is what happens? Well, obviously, there are waymarks, like crime scene investigation, that gave him this idea that fossils are fast. They form fast. Well, friends, think about this for a second. Take a good look at this. Look how the tender parts of this shrimp, how long is this thing going to lay around until these antennae fall off? His soft body deteriorates before it can get into any kind of fossilization process, the way we understand it, I'm saying. Long periods of time. Let's go ahead and open up our little fish guy, and then I'm going to show you something, okay? This I have not seen yet, so you're seeing this live for the first time. Welcome, Pamela and Shadow Wizard. All right, welcome. Yep, Robin, glad you're here. All right. Can't wait to see this. It looked cool in the pictures. I hope it's cool. And this is a fish skeleton. And what's the point? Those of you just joined us. What's the point of a fish skeleton? When you see fossilization fish, and I'm going to show you a larger one in just 2 seconds here, you see that they have been naturally preserved, a lot of the whole thing, the bones, the flesh, the fins. And I just want to demonstrate just exactly how delicate this is. And question, what kind of process has to take place in order for a fish that can deteriorate quite rapidly to maintain its integrity and then become a fossil? Wow, look at that. Now take a good look at that. These are the fish bones, okay? If the flesh was to fall off and those bones were able to maintain their integrity, then you still, it would be like a miracle for it to stick around long enough in order for it to go through a fossilization process, unless the fossilization process itself is very, very rapid. But there's elements to this fossilization process that when you look it up on the internet, and I did, wanted to get educated on this. What's interesting is that you will see this is how it shows how it's done. Okay, let me show you. Here's our little stunt fish for the evening's live here, and let's just say that this is. Let me just move this to the side. Let's just say that this right here is the. Sorry, monkey man, you're gonna have to give me this. Let's say this is the bottom of a sea or a lake or a body of water, okay? All right. Let's not even enter into catastrophism. Let's just say, because quite honestly, what you'll see is not catastrophism involved necessarily in the fossilization process. This is what you'll see demonstrated on the internet when you ask, how do things fossilize? Fish dies. Doesn't bloat and float, it sinks to the bottom, all right? Then we have silt that goes over the fish. Silt covers the fish. And then some more silt, and some more silt covers the fish. Friends, silt covering a fish doesn't produce a fossil. It doesn't. I heard of an experiment one time where they took a whole cage of catfish and they shoved it down in the mud. Okay, you'll hear silt, mud when talking about fossilization process. They shoved it 5 feet, I think it was, 5 or 6 feet in the mud. They pulled it up, I believe it was within a week. And you know what they found? They found a cage full of nothing. The fish were completely eaten, rotted, however, gone. So we're to believe that a fish, sinks to the bottom, and then silt covers its delicate little body, and that somehow that right there, no. What the geologists are starting to say now, friends, is that every layer that you see, let's say in the Grand Canyon, every layer that we're seeing, every fossil that has been made is through localized catastrophism. Now, catastrophism is a dirty word in the geology of today and yesterday, especially yesterday. It's not until the 80s that they started to use different words to describe catastrophism when it comes to the geology of the earth. What that means is that every layer that you see, according to, this idea that we're talking hundreds of millions or billions of years, between each layer, there was like nothing going on. Nothing. And then the next layer, catastrophism. Next layer, catastrophism. In between the layers, nothing. Next layer, catastrophism. Fossils, catastrophism. You need catastrophism in order to get these locked in so that no microbes, no air, no nothing gets to it. Okay, we're building on something here. Don't go away. Here's the next step. So we'll just put Mr. Fish right there just so we can use him as a mascot. So let me show you a mortality plate right here. And let's take a look at this as a crime scene, okay? What you have here is a fish and 3 leaves. Is there anything more there? Oh, do you see what that is? That's one of those helicopter things. Helicopter seeds, you know what I mean? So this becomes this. The fish that I showed you, whatever, becomes this. Now, I don't think this is that necessarily, because this is bones. This is intact, friends. Let me see if I can get this a little bit closer to you. By the way, I appreciate your support, because we're eventually going to have 4 cameras and a microscope when we expand our and I've talked about this for the last few weeks. We're working on it so that I'll have other cameras that we'll be able to get real close with this stuff. Take a look at that right there. That's a fully formed fish that didn't deteriorate, along with leaves that are what? They're flat and they're in perfect condition. This has been laying around the house for the last couple of weeks, okay? And it hasn't deteriorated like most leaves do. But even so, it starts to get a little bit gamey. The water keeps them flat and keeps them hydrated, and then they get buried right along with this fish. Now, what were 3 leaves and a helicopter doing getting squished with massive amounts of sedimentary material? What could have caused it? Once again, the geologists have to admit that it's a localized, not a global. We're contending that it was global. That it was a local, catastrophic, geological event. That no longer can we look at these fossils and say, oh, well, the fish was buried in some dirt or some silt, and then eventually it turned into a fossil. No, no. This is a crime scene. What is it that we're observing? We're observing that these things were preserved and they were buried catastrophically and instantly, with a profound amount of overburden on top of it to preserve it and to give the necessary pressure for the fossilization process to begin. Now, granted, there may be other fossilization processes that I haven't learned yet, but this is kind of the one that we're faced with most of the time. All right. So enter in the Franken fossil machine. This right here was designed to replicate the catastrophic worldwide or local flood. We'll just give the benefit of the doubt here, okay? A catastrophic fossilization process, okay? I'm going to break it down just a little bit. So what we did was we took like a leaf like this, or the gentleman that produced the Franken fossil machine, and we put this in here with clay and some water. So it had minerals, it had water, and the water was squeezed out when these were tightened. This was all in this canister right here. Then it was put into an oven, and it was baked or heated for 24 hours. Okay. You may have seen this already, but in the context of what we're talking about here. And that's what it looked like. And there were other leaves that were put a little bit further down in this matrix, and this is stone, and this is, there you go. 24 hours it took to create this. So what have we learned? Fossilization, fast fossilization is necessary if you're going to promote the idea of a worldwide catastrophic flood. You have to have fast forming fossils in order for fossilization to even take place. Where do we see fossilization right now taking place in a non-catastrophic environment? Zero. There is no, it's not about time, friends. It's not about millions of years, billions of years, 100,000 years. It's about the conditions, the chemistry, the pressure. The pressure that is placed on this leaf that I just showed you, simulation, not just simulation, it actually is 3,000 psi. That's 5 to 10,000 feet, whether it's wet or dry, of overburden, meaning the sandstone, the clay, the whatever, that compressed this, that was on top of it, was 5 to 10,000 feet of it. Where are you going to get 5 to 10,000 feet of overburden, even if it's a local flood? And think about this for a second. How many feet of water is a local flood? What does a local flood look like with, friends, I've looked it up and it looks like 10, 20, 30 feet at the most. And it's only usually for a short period of time. And yet we have over 100 Native American flood legends in their earliest history, orally maintained and preserved, and then recorded anywhere between the 1700s to the early 1900s by those who had contact with the Native Americans all over the United States. And what's interesting is every single one of them said that it was worldwide, that it was right up to the top or surpassed their local mountain. And typically most of them it was because men were evil and that a higher power did this. Interesting. So when you add it all up, fast forming fossils, sure, it can fit into, now it does, over the last 40 years, into the evolutionary or shall I say modern geological worldview. It does. But it also fits perfectly, and it's necessary if there was a worldwide flood, because these fossils right here are no more than 4,400 years old. Oh, there's one on the back. Friends, that's a graveyard out there. Graveyard of all sorts of mostly marine animals that are in the fossil record. Approximately, 95 to 97% of the fossil record is just marine animals. Okay. All right. So I promised you, let me see if salted caramel. Okay. I'm glad you guys were here. Free pint of ice cream. I'm glad. All right. For those of you that want to get a little cozier with us, this is, we just had this sign made, by the way. I hope you're impressed with it. And if you're not, that's okay. But text me. Take a screenshot of that. Somebody can put that in the comments section. That would be great. 315-509-9075. Text me. Just say, hey, John. And I'll say, hey, Bob. Hey, Sue. Hey, Ken. Welcome to the text line for the museum. It's free. And I'll text you when we go live. I promise I won't be obnoxious. Usually I text the group, which is a few hundred, couple, 3 times, maybe at the most a week. And you're also welcome to ask questions and have direct access to me. So there we go. All right. Okay, guys. So I want to thank everyone here for, there you go. Thank you, Anna. Anna Banana from Indiana. I appreciate you putting up the text number. All right, let's go ahead and show that. All right. All right, so if any of you have missed this, it'll be up in just a few minutes for replay. And I'm glad you came. Next week, I don't know what I got going on next week, but next week I think I'm going to do some unboxing. I've got 5 boxes over there with multiple items in there. Maybe you've caught some of my unboxing in the past. I'm going to unbox multiple items, not just one at a time. Got to get through these because I got to open them up and then use them for other things. So why don't we work on that for next week? We're going to open up a box that may have up to 5 really interesting, some of them mind-blowing artifacts and fossils that I'm hoping you guys will appreciate and be glad that you spent your precious time here on our live. All right. Okay, Joe. Sorry, some of these I'm glad you're here. You're welcome. The person said, thanks, John. You're welcome. All right. So we're done. So again, we asked the important and provocative question, where did we come from? Did we come from an ape-like creature 3 to 4 million years ago? Or did aliens have something to do with our advancement technologically and our DNA? Or did we come from a race of genius giants, and the first 2 of them here on planet Earth was Adam and Eve, who lived to be 930 years old. And there was a worldwide flood 4,400 years ago, just like the book of Genesis says, written by the former commander of the Egyptian army, Moses. You guys have a wonderful afternoon, evening. We'll see you next